that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, clocked in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA Show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with my boys Isaiah.
Yo.
And Gavin.
What's going on?
And today we are here to hit you with our deep dive analysis on Tower of God Season 2 of the Webtoon chapters. What was it again?
53 to 64?
Five. 53 to 65.
Between the three of us, we'll get it.
We'll get it between the three of us. That's why three heads are better than one. Anyway, we are trying a new style today. So I said it in the live streaming, and I am saying it again now for maybe anyone who just watches these deep dive analysis rather than the live stream. And this, if you didn't though, I highly recommend that you do. These have just been getting better and better and better and better.
It's really fun.
Each and every time. So you won't regret it, I promise, getting our genuine reaction to it. But with that being said, we are going to try a new format today. As you see, we do not have the Webtoon up here currently because we're trying to get ourselves in a rhythm. You'll see what I'm talking about. Instead of going through the entirety of what we read beat by beat and doing more of like a recap and a rehash, instead we've written down some of the key moments in our opinion, and we asked some folks in our Discord after the stream what key moments that they wanted to hear about and kind of combine those two things in order to flesh out our thoughts on specific story beats within the chapters that we've read. So we're not going to be talking about every single thing. We're going to be talking about a couple key things. So if you want to have your voices and your opinion heard, I highly recommend that you join the Discord, and I highly recommend that you catch our streams. That way, afterwards, you will have your opinion will be at the front of the line, essentially, right? So that is how we're going to try this going forward. If you guys have any feedback or opinions or anything, let us know. Also, I will say this once, although I'll probably have to say it again. And I love you all, but I know I'm going to get at least one of these comments. With this being said, and being that I don't have a Webtoon at my disposal, there will be something that we miss. I promise you.
Sure.
There will be some small thing that we miss. There will be something maybe within what we're talking about that we totally forgot. It happens. This is the price we pay to kind of give you more of an unfiltered thought and opinion rather than being guided by the story itself. We just came off the cuff.
We don't want the episode to be 2 hours long.
Exactly. Just came off the cuff of being live, so not everything is going to be, there in our minds. There's a lot of shit to cover. We read like 14 chapters or whatever. So just throwing that out there. But anyway, if you guys like the content today, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, sharing with your friends, and commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of these chapters? What did you think about our discussion on them? Make sure you guys are following us on the socials. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so you can stay up to date. Make sure you guys are joining that community Discord, which is in the links in the description down below. If you want to support us in the final step, you can hit us up on Patreon. That's patreon.com/AoA show. And finally, if you are listening to this in audio-only format, whether it be Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, etc., make sure you guys are throwing a follow on there. And if you didn't know, we are on audio-only podcast platforms as well, so definitely check us out there when you can't watch the video formats of this. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the discussion. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about was Kuhn, because why don't we want to talk about Kuhn? And a couple things with Kuhn. We want to talk about the fact that he's on a new team now, his relationship with Wang Nan, his relationship with Dan after he kind of goes through that whole rigmarole, him potentially doubting his new team and how he has to come to grips with some of the flaws that he has in with that doubt, and things of that nature. So anyway, anybody have any thoughts? They want to start us off?
I just fucking love it, dude. I mean, we talked about it before this bunch of chapters, but just the idea of the dynamic between these guys, because again, I think Dan says it best, where Kuhn isn't used to playing like this, right? Kuhn is used to having the best cards in his deck. He's used to having the table set exactly as he wants it, and even if it's not, he can rearrange it. He's got enough space or leg room, so to speak, to rearrange it in a way that's a winning formula for him. But he is quite literally, for all intents and purposes, working with the bottom of the barrel here, right? He's got people who, without Bam, would not be here. They would not be on this floor, and they would not be able to get up any higher. And so he is essentially working with what I think a emotion or fear, for lack of a better term, that I don't think he's used to, which is doubt, right? He is genuinely worried that he might not be able to pass this test. And he even says it himself at one point. He's like, this is only the test for the 29th floor. Yeah. Like in the scale, that's nothing. But like, I'm worried that I might not get past 29. And it's like, it's interesting to see him grapple with that. And I think that's what this situation is leading itself to best is forcing a lot of these characters who we sort of know and are put in place of certain archetypes to like grapple with and have to deal with emotions that they're not, normally dealing with.
I think he does have one. The problem of doubt is a reoccurring in the sense that he definitely has a lack of trust. Because we established in the first season that because he can't trust others and he thinks too long, that's why like he needed teammates.
Oh,
like
sure,
Rack.
but
so
I don't.
I think
but
that
I don't
surfaced itself slightly.
But I think like him not trusting them is different than him not believing in his ability and their ability to like. That's not. Those are different things.
I guess there's because like you can trust in someone's ability to pull through for you. You know what I mean? As much as you can trust that they won't lie. So I guess when I say trust, I mean it in that way, where it's like, you know what I mean? Like you don't trust that they are powerful enough to do this.
Oh, yeah.
Which is essentially doubt. But but definitely a trust issue in which Kuhn has struggled. I love his relationship with Wang Nan.
Mm-hmm.
Moreover, Wang Nan's relationship with him, if that makes sense, right? Because it's like Wang Nan's like, hey, Kuhn, I'm in this scenario again. Hey, Kuhn, can you break me out of this thing? Hey, Kuhn, what do I do? And they've been together for not even that long. Kuhn just like, dude, figure it out yourself. I don't know what to tell you. But it's interesting because Wang Nan has a lot of the qualities that Bam did and that Kuhn, although he deems him stupid, appreciaes.
Yeah.
You know, which I find to be interesting. Let's talk about him and Dan real quick. And Dan's just character development.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly had assigned Dan to role of pretty cool side character. I was not expecting any more from him. I was like, I thought they were going to get in that room. He was going to be on like his dying breath and he's going to be like, fuck up Rachel for me, and then just pass out. And it's like, well, we got another one to add to the list of why we want to kill Rachel. But like, he survived. He's grown from this experience, and like, he did the one thing that, to his credit, I don't think is a big man move, right? Yeah. He was in this moment where he's like, look, the only reason Rachel did this to me is to make a point, right? She did this to prove that if somebody's in this position, that they've got nothing to face but misery. He's like, but I'm not. I'm going to grow from this. I'm going to show her that taking away my legs, that taking away this part of my life is not what's going to break me. And it's like...
Yeah, and it's an interesting parallel to Rachel herself, who can't even get over her problems and demons. And that's like, and that is just what's refreshing to see, because in some ways I feel like he knows it as well, which is obviously why she took out his legs to begin with, because she doesn't even have her own tooth that she can stand on. So
100%.
It's just fucking, it's great. And I really am curious to see how he progresses with this story, because again, he's like side guy number like 2 over there, you know, and although they're throwing some spotlight on him, I don't foresee him continuing really far throughout this series in general, just with everything that has to happen. But like, he's also not just going to be left in the dust, I think. Like, they're going to put him in a good spot to where he has his moment and when he shines.
Yeah,
I'm just really looking
it gives
forward
off this
to it.
idea. Again, I think Dan is the one who has this line where he says, Kuhn's not used to dealing with this kind of situation. He's used to using people, and then once they've outlived their usefulness, throwing them away.
Exactly.
Which is how he found Dan, literally, right? He was like, oh, I need somebody who's this fast on my team. But like, again, the way that these circumstances are playing out alludes to this idea that these characters are people. And they're not just pawns, they're not puzzle pieces. They all have their own lives and feelings to grapple with. And that like those things, when they interact with each other, create the conflict of the story. And I think it's such a cool idea, because one, it mirrors the whole ideology between people like Wang and Bam versus somebody like Kuhn, who it's like, look, if you don't learn how to play this game right, if you don't learn how to use people, you're not making the top of this tower. To whereas somebody like Wang might argue, or even Bam, at least in his earlier state, of like, is there a point, though, in getting to the top of that tower if you have to do that to people, especially people that you say you trust? And it's like, the way the story just beats its theme back into you is so amazing.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Prince?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Prince and Nissan.
I think the shout out Smile was hitting us up on the Discord.
Oh yes, we literally have a list.
Yeah.
Shit.
And I think one of the things in there was has Prince grown on you? And yes, he has. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's like, it's not that it's like, oh, he's one of my favorite characters or whatever, but it's like, coming from where he was, it's like, it'd be petty of me to like hold a grudge for that long. You know what I mean? He's an arrogant child. He's still arrogant as hell, but like, it's interesting because you didn't see it at first, but he has a good heart now that he's been humbled, right?
Yeah.
And you've kind of like chipped away at all those like pretty terrible qualities, and they're still there, and there's still something he has to contend with. But I do like how, he was kind of, being pretty abrasive in the way that he was trying to help Missang, but he was still like, I'm going to help you.
Right. It was like he did it in like the only way Prince knows how.
Yeah.
But it did very clearly stem from like no, I do want to see her get over this and get better, and not like I'm trying to attack her. Or whatever.
Yeah, and I feel like another thing that you gotta be careful with when you're analyzing his character is that a lot of it doesn't stem from him himself as necessary as more of his upbringing, because obviously, you know, he has his father who's always been backing him, you know, who spoiled the living fuck out of him. Like, that is how he was raised, and those are all of his experience that he has faced until he met his new team, to where now he's realizing this isn't like, you can't just he can't act the way he does normally act with everybody, you know? Yeah. You need to be able to open up, you need to be able to make friends, and I feel like a lot of that void and arrogance came from just being lonely and almost being on a pinnacle by himself, where he just associates everybody down below him. And now that he's been dropped down a peg forcefully to be on their level, and he's starting to understand it and get that dynamic of just being a normal fucking human being who isn't an asshole, you know? And of course, him being on top of people is going to come naturally because, again, that's his personality from his upbringing. But like, it is slowly being chipped away, like you mentioned, and it's refreshing to see because he is not being so stubborn to the fact to like not grow as a person. He's really taking it on and really trying to better himself, even if he doesn't realize it. Like, it's starting to affect him in a more positive light.
Sure, yeah. So. And I think that's like, it's again just this callback to like the way this team works, because I think like what is so great about them, while they might be, you know, stereotypically the underdogs as far as their skills and statistics and stuff, like they make each other grow, and they fill out all those, you know, perfect anime moments, if you want to call it that, where it's like everybody in this team has something they can learn from each other. And like together, this team probably doesn't work well together, but it's the only way like that they're gonna get through this tower, because they literally need each other, right? Whether it's like Wang's optimism, or it's, you know, Prince's, you know, ideology, or you know, whoever. It's like everybody has something that like when put side by side, you know. And again, it's the way the tower is structured, right? When you have like all these different positions, it's like everybody in this team, if everybody's doing their job and everybody is helping each other, like they're good to go.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I like him.
Yeah,
I think
he's definitely grown on me. Yeah. Definitely.
So let's talk about Bam Squad real quick, or Jewel Viola Grace, who
Sith Lords
basically has been inculcated into just the Sith Empire, yeah. And like so many Star Wars references this stream, just in general, there were so many things. And like, could you blame us? Like
they're literally doing the thing on a ship, like on a floating ship.
It's insane. Yeah, dude. Like, first of all, the one guy that meets him with the fucking the humanoid face mask, the silver mask, the guy,
Mr.
Flex.
Reflex.
Yeah, I'm just calling him Flex. Fucking that guy was just interesting. He's walking around like full garb, full robes, and he's like, all right, Bam, you're my master though. And it's like, clearly that guy's incredibly powerful, because when Novik went to go fuck with him, he literally just had to stare at him, and Novik was like, nope, I'm off. I backed off. Whereas like Novik, you got to think, it like was willing to fight Bam, right? With like, you know what, fuck it, right? With this guy, he didn't even throw a punch. He was like, nope, stepping off, right? So it's like, we don't know that guy's power level, but it's like, okay, like he's pretty fucking strong himself. And
that's true. I do think Bam's team though, like the, benefit, if you want to call it that, is like a lot of these guys are just straight up trained killers, right? Like they will gut your throat without even blinking. And it's like, whereas if Novik were to go at Bam and he's like, I think I could take this guy. It's like, one, he did think that he didn't have the fact, like he didn't know who Bam was.
True.
And two, Bam has never, except for in that fight, actually I would argue, really ever come at somebody in a fight with the straight intent to kill them. Whereas like, again, these guys are not fucking, they're coming out here for blood. If they're coming at you, it's to end your life. And it's like, when you get that killing intent, it's like, oh, this means business.
Yeah, well, not only that, I think it's really important the fact that we didn't see too many of them in the chapter, whatever the gun, the loading thing, because if they did integrate them in some way, I feel like it would have almost just, like, obviously they're saving them for the workshop. That's like the pinnacle, but like, we know their mindset and how they are, like how strong they are individually. And if they are integrated in a format like it is, where a lot of it was almost individual in a sense, where you can work as a team, but everybody was split up. If they were planted in random spots, it would have been game over, dude. Like if SIU decided, like, I'm going to put this guy here, like we know their power scale has to be stupidly strong. So if you're not able to fight them in a team setting, which they weren't able to in this fight, there's no way to beat them, like physically. And that's the thing where Bam's team, it's full of individual people who have so much power, but we don't know how they're going to work as a team, if they are even capable of working as a team, because we don't know their mindset and how, if they're too cocky, if they're arrogant, if they just try to like one-man army everything. So it's interesting how you see SIU's mindset with that in terms of like keeping them out of this whole, arc.
Even later in this couple of chapters, we get, the moment with the fight between Shibasu's team and Bam's team, where his teammate is quite literally on a whim ready to throw his life away just to block an attack from Bam.
True. Yeah.
And it's like, so again, it alludes to this idea you're talking about where it's like these guys may be strong together, but they've got no sense of unity where it's like, we just got to prioritize Bam. Yes. That's it. Like, that's the whole strat. And it's like, it's not going to win you guys anything, though, because you're all just going to get picked off then, if you're, you know what I mean? So it's like, again, where somebody like, I feel like Wang's team is like literally like knows how to go through the ringer for each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How about the fact that Horyang's alive?
Yeah,
that was crazy.
That was
considering the stream before, right?
We were
like
dead.
fucking chalked. We were all choked up about that shit, dude.
Yeah,
we were like, oh man, they're so sad, blah blah blah. And he's
and
back.
I love how like SIU will do this thing where it's like the first panel you see is him like in bed and he's like, ugh. And it's like, whoa, hold on. How about like what's up, nigga? Like, I'm alive. Like, I thought you were dead, bro. What, you just taking a nap? Like, okay, that's cool. And then Costano was like, oh, I brought you back. And he's like, whoa, what do you mean you brought me back, bro? Like, fucking explain yourself. And he's like, hold on, bro. Like, Miss Smith or whatever the fuck her name is, Sophia, is waiting for us, which is another thing, because it's like...
you're hitting us with two, right? It's like part of the price of one, dude.
Part of me thinks that Fug, or whoever the fuck is using Costano, is just using Sophia as a way to control him, and so he's then, by extension, being like, yo, they got Sophia, like, we gotta work with them, but it's like, nah, nigga, Sophia's, like, dead or not coming or whatever, like, they're just using, that connection you have.
It was a part of Fug this whole time, like we mentioned back in the last chapters, where like who was running all of these tests to begin with, because by association she would be a part of Fug in some sense. I mean, it doesn't mean that her loyalty is 100%.
That experiment, which
if they
like,
it's
so crazy to think how far Fug really stretches throughout this tower, or you know what I mean, like how high it goes. I'm gonna assume that guy that we see for quite literally like 2 panels, who's like, I'm not human or whatever, and he's a dude smoking the cigarette.
You're talking to the radio?
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know where that guy is in relation to, the tower and then Jihad by extension, or like if he even know, like, you know what I mean? It's so crazy that this tower literally feels like another world, where it's like whole sections of this tower live differently than other whole sections of this tower. But it's crazy to think that like this Fug, I think what's interesting about Fug as a group is that their whole goal here, right, is to usurp Jihad. But I think in essence of trying to operate under this mentality of like it's going to take a whole village to kill a king is not putting into account that like the whole village might not agree with the same strat on how to kill the king. And so like Fug might end up stretching itself too far and incorporating one too many elements where you have like people like Bam and Jin Sung who are like, yeah, let's kill Jihad because of what he did. And then you got chicks like Shasha who are just kind of zealots and crazy and fucking want to blow everything up for the name of Fug. And, so it's like, I don't know. I have a feeling that this strategy might end up being their downfall. You know what I mean? If they're not careful going forward.
I guess in a sense, yeah. Who knows? I mean, that's the whole thing is, can they actually fall down at this point, though, or in the future? Because ultimately their target is Jihad, Like, I feel like it can't fall, it can fall fat later on, but it's going to take a long fucking time to it. And, like, I don't know. I guess we're just going to have to see on that.
How about the heavenly figure that was the test director?
I
guess
for the workshop or whatever.
Anyone who uses the line "come hither," I already know that I should be wary of you in every way, shape, and form.
Anyone fucking ad-libbing the Bible. It's like, when they what do you got going on here?
It's like, what the fuck is going on? I don't trust him, but he definitely seems interesting, and I could only picture his voice as like, like, come with me, just see the lights type thing.
I am enlightened.
Thing, and I'm very interested to see that dude's deal, because you're just like, all right, like, what the hell is up with you?
What the fuck is up?
Yeah, that guy was interesting.
One of the other comments we had from Smile here is, who do you guys think would have won the Anak versus Rand fight if they didn't get interrupted?
Well, they would have shot each other. It was a draw.
I think it was just a flat
draw. It was literally a draw. That's what... I don't know, man. They both had the gun pointed at the same fucking time.
I don't know.
So...
They kind of made it crystal clear on that one.
Yeah.
Did they, though, Gavin?
They made it pretty clear. Because we were betting about this before, or saying our thoughts. I was like, dude, I think it's going to be a draw, because I can't picture one. Like, literally, dude, they were just, like, tit for tat. I think that...
I kind of feel like it would have been, like, a spinning cycle where it's like...
It could have been.
That moment wouldn't have been the end if Bam had come in.
Yeah.
So, like, if he wasn't there, they would have, like, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, maybe.
Off the wall and jumped on this nigga.
Even then, I feel like it would have been pretty neck and neck, like, to the point where it's hard to
in that set scenario with the gun, I think the fight is a draw through and through. But
Okay,
I
'cause you
think
think, like,
in
the
a
objective is-
fisticuffs fight where it's like you go until you die, I think a knock wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was kind of clear that Ran had to resort to very like tactical strategies, which fair enough, that might be part of your fighting style. But like a knock just kind of seems like an actual unit. Like in that fight, she gave me the vibe where it was like every time Rand did something to try and pull an underhanded trick, a knock was so powerful that the second she realized it, she was able to reverse it, not out of any sort of scheming, but just because she's that strong. So I think if it's a fight to the death, Rand has to find a way to like continuously trick a knock and like pick her, like chip her down gradually. Whereas like if a knock, it like sees through the bullshit or gets like a solid minute
really
with him,
good hit. Like,
she's gonna win. That's my opinion.
I agree that it's definitely more of like a time game where it's like if the only way Rand wins that fight is if he can come out the gate and like really put a pin in her. Like if he gets to a point where like he can chip her down and whittle away at her and get her, because I think that's a Nox thing is like, I don't want to use the term glass cannon, but like she's a powerhouse going in, but she definitely drops energy significantly the longer the fight goes on, and like you can just straight up tire her out. Where it's like then we know with Rand's level of battle intellect and like strategic thinking, he could probably pull out a win then, but he's got to last that long.
Yeah, it could go either way, but I guess based off what we saw, and I could be dead wrong if they ever fight again or this happens, but I just felt that a knock had overwhelming superiority in actual might, whereas obviously Ran was a little more tactical in his approach. He had to be, but like if he didn't have that tactic, you know what I'm saying? Like if he gets caught once, it seemed like he was pretty fucked, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. What do you think, Gavin? Gavin's been making looks over this whole time. He's like,
I don't know. It's weird because it's one of those things where it's like, almost like brute versus intellect in a sense, where obviously Anok's able to counter it, but if, again, we don't know if Ran also had another plan on the back burner. Like, you know, in those cases, tactic tends to win just over like straight brute force with less knowledge, especially if he's like able to comprehend the situation and know all external factors. I mean, it's kind of like you're comparing him to Kuhn because technically he is a Kuhn. So like how far does that intellect go and that battle knowledge go to where he's able to then turn the tables again because we didn't see it because it was called by fucking Viola, you know, because you didn't know if maybe he had some other fucking scheme up his like sleeve but just pulled out.
True, yeah, they could have.
They're definitely
You know,
like a
it's
pairing
interesting.
that's like
they're very
fucking
interesting.
neck and neck.
Yeah,
It's like
honestly,
depending on the circumstances, either one can
exactly.
win any
It
scenario.
literally could come down to where they are fighting.
Exactly.
Like if it's in a building or whatever, but I guess I was just saying like if you're taking like flat landscape, you know what I mean? Like if you're literally just putting them in
like
box,
open field.
we're going to, what's the
Season
Smash
1
Brothers, the Final Destination on Smash. If we're putting them on Final Destination, my money's on a knock. But if we're putting them on like any other map, then it's potential that it goes the other way. That's my thoughts personally, but that was a sick fight. It was in general. You know what I mean? They were neck and neck. Real quick, let's talk about the Traveler real fast because this is when, well, actually, before we even get to the Traveler, let's talk about, because we kind of move from this point that, you know, we're training, we're doing everything we got to do. We get to the ship, name evades me at the moment. And, you know, Archimedes or something like that. Whatever. Anderosi's on TV at some point. You know, they're doing all this stuff.
Team is, I think.
They're pretty well known. Everyone's simping for Anderosi. Like, geez, dude, everyone is simping for Anderosi. Like, holy shit. Yeah, well deserved. And I mean, I can't blame them. But then the next test fires up. As per usual, it has to be some like crazy bullshit that no one was expecting.
Like right when you don't expect it. You know, they're like, oh, we're going to go to sleep and tomorrow starts a test. And they're like, actually, while you guys are waiting, here's the test. Go. And it's like,
and it's always all off of someone with the thought, literally Kuhn going, they're making us, why be here 2 days sooner? And then not even without skipping a beat. It's like, oh, test starting now. It's fucking 10 o'clock.
It's like, never, it's just always think if it's too good to be true.
Yeah,
it's
never
too
a dull
good
moment.
to be true. Yeah, that's it. So so we get into the test, right? And basically the test is explained as we have 248 tickets roughly for the ship to transport you to the thing. Yeah, I think that was it. Right? Okay. I didn't know if it was 8 or 6. So, you know, we have this many tickets and you each get a gun, etc. You got the light bullet, the dark bullet. You could steal one. You could shoot your teammates. You could do whatever, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the drill. Then we get into the test. Now, at this point, everyone goes on these like divergent paths because everyone has a different role to play in this test. And I mean everyone down to the individual level and down to the team level, which is very interesting, that's probably going to be us fleshing all of this out for the remainder of the episode for the most part. But let's start with the Traveler because one of the first people we see is Bam, who notices that there is a dude running from these robots, essentially these patrol people. So it was interesting because, you know, we don't know who the hell he is. And we didn't know about the existence of these patrol bots. So then Bam comes down, dismantles that one with ease. That's when they send a level 31 up. And basically we learn that, okay, they get harder as you kill them because they're like, yeah, there's some pretty interesting people here, so we should probably be careful. That's when the Traveler leads Bam down into this area where he's like, okay, we're going to make a trap for him. And that's when he gets to know Bam for Bam, even in that very short moment.
That's
right?
true. I think that arguably, like, that moment where he's with this total stranger is where Bam got to be the most Bam that we knew. You know what I mean? In a long time, since he was you know, fucking shoved off by that snake.
Yeah, it was interesting because he didn't say my name is Jewel Viola Grace. He said my name is the 25th Bam, and it's like that's very sketchy for you to be saying right now. You know, just in general.
Although we do know that, like, in that whole test, essentially, literally everybody is literally like when Anderosi mentions Jewel Viola's name. That even the Traveler knows who that name is just by notoriety. So I think he doesn't use the name even just if it's because he's like, well, I can't use Jewel Viola. He'll probably know who the fuck I am and report me. So like he has to use the only other name he has.
Yeah.
Could have just went by like John Smith or just some some alter ego.
Yeah, Gavin, he could have, but John Smith's not his fucking other name. It's Bam, all right?
Bam's like, I couldn't think that quick. So it's interesting with the Traveler, right? Because we realized for this test, there are some items that can be accrued. And this is always something cool because, like, the gamer side comes out in me. It's like, ooh, bonus objective, and I get a cool item.
Give
you know
me
what
the
I mean?
loot.
Are we farming for this? Yeah. So they're like, okay, if you win the test, like, you get this incredible item. And if you do some other side thing, you get an item too. But we realized through the Traveler that the item for winning this test is a human being. And not only is it a human being, it's, well, at least according to him, it's the love of his life. So that's interesting and complicates things, you know, just in general.
Of course.
So, like, I don't know how we feel about that. Like, who is that?
Oh, wait, they said the Traveler said the love of his life?
Correct.
Oh, then it's Emily.
Who now?
Emily.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Emily, that's the one that's on his phone. Remember when we went back to panels back
Gavin,
to where
brain blast. Because
I didn't even read that.
Yeah. Or not last chapter, but last time when Emily was introduced, the Traveler was the one texting her saying, I know, like, you're a person. I know, like, he was the one talking her up. And then there was that panel of her in the thing.
And he's like, I'm going to come up the tower for you.
I forgot who the fuck Emily was. I'm like, who? And then, okay, so the chick's like, you'll never be human like that.
Yes, that's right.
That's why when he said that, I was like, wait, it was the love
play.
of his life. I was like, yeah, then it's him. Yeah.
That is the play. Because he,
oh
my God. I forgot that Traveler was the same name used.
Connecting the dots. Havin Cole.
Lord Havin coming in clutch.
Lord Havin coming in clutch. That was good. Okay, so then that's her.
Yeah.
So we'll get to see what.
All right, point wrapped up.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
What you got next? SIU. Guess this whole story.
Give me something challenging for once. Gavin, what is this guy?
What's the dude's name with the long hair?
Yeah. So that's interesting. That's very interesting.
That's fucking crazy. Something else I just wanted to bring up real quick. That smile here on this note here is that Verdi is before I was tossing around who she was, but like alludes to the fact that she's in anima, which is basically the same thing that Rice Ball is, which is people that can control and manipulate like animals and things through Shinsu, which is crazy. And now makes me think, well, fuck, dude, if she's even got like a quarter of Rice Ball strength, like we know that like if you're not at least Curdon levels of strength, you're kind of fucked. I mean, Rice Ball could probably put a lot of the people in this group to shame. I mean, I don't know about now because everybody's had significant time to train and shit, but like she's clearly a menace, bro. She dismantled, I mean, I don't know what this is saying, Missing and Prince fairly quickly. They were probably the weakest of the group if I'm, you know.
But she like, does say, when Horyang comes up where it's like, we got to go. Like, I'd love to have fun with you. And we know Horyang being the devil's right arm. And if he's on the same level as like Costano, who beat the shit out of Hotz, which we will get to in a second.
But that's
like the whole
Well, that's mentioning she
where
cucked Bam because her anima thing also put the ring on his finger that prevented him from using Shinsu. So
that's
like,
true. But that's more of an ability. I feel like what Tower God does great though is like, she would say something like that to Teddy, but like not knowing who Teddy really is. Tower God does this thing where it's like two people will start fighting and it's like, look at this fucking Claude. I could beat his ass. And you find out like, you're like, oh wait, that's, oh shit. Like,
people
you know what I mean?
in the tower
like,
steady on that bullshit.
Where it's like,
nobody,
everybody's willing to talk shit, but nobody really knows who anybody is until it's too late and you've talked too much shit. But like, I definitely regardless feel like she can clearly hold her own. I don't honestly think Shibasu and them would have kept her around if she couldn't.
Even Kuhn was scared of her. Like,
Yeah,
he ran
that's
away.
true.
He was like, "Fuck that, dude! No,
Yeah,
bucket."
he was immediately like, Wang Nan,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I guess, again, like, what's Wang Nan going to do against her? But, like, he was like, bro, you got to get out of there. Like, you're dead if you, you know, intervene.
Which is interesting, too, leads me into a next point. We were talking about people's motivations, and not just on an individual scale, but on a team scale as well, right? Because we have 3 teams, and then we also have Rack, who is split off with Pericule, or Pickle, from his squad as well. And it's interesting to get all of their motivations, right? Because Shibasu's squad is stated doesn't even want to win the test.
Yeah.
They just want revenge for Kuhn, right? Because this is like their, no man left behind type thing, who they think Jewel Viola Grace has killed, essentially. So that was very relevant. But then you get people on, kind of more of a micro level, like your Verde and stuff like that, who are like, oh, I want to make dolls out of these people, and I want to do like all this kind of stuff. And, it's very interesting to get everyone's like individual motives within this, right? And then we get Bam Squad, who needs Bam to ascend at any means necessary. And then we get Coon Squad, who wants to save Bam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
While
then it's
also
like,
navigating
if you
Shibasu's
dig
team.
a little bit further, it's like you even have cross sections where you've got Ryun,
Yes.
who's a prior member of Fug, working with Kuhn to like secretly pull Bam out of this secondary unit that he's been like, you know what I mean? Like there's so many intersecting, and even the fact that Kuhn is now working with Wang Nan and that whole team, which was an initial secondary unit that Bam sectioned off, which is like technically all working, overlapping with Shibasu, who's partnered with Kuhn. Like there's fucking, it's one of those charts, dude, with the fucking red, like, it's crazy. There's so many like,
it is wild.
Multiple parts at play.
Dude, I want to say Shibasu's squad, too, is like not to be fucked with. Because somebody asked us during stream, they were like, well, whose team would you bet on, like, if it was up to you passing this test? And, like, putting all biases aside and things like that, if we had to look at this in the objective here, like, I was saying personally, like, plot aside, that, like, Shibasu's team is, like, no joke, dude.
You know what's funny? I, like, said Kuhn because he's perfect when we started, like, during the stream. But, like, it's funny. In my head, I'm like, you know what? I was like, Shibasu's team could pull this out. But in my head, I'm like, but I need them to, like, just prove it to me. And I think this test kind of proved it to me. That, like, if they get in a room with somebody, provided that somebody is not Bam, like,
and
they
almost
could fuck
that
him,
too.
They could
If
fuck him
Bam
over.
didn't have his thorn,
That's
too,
true.
because they effectively had him beat.
That's
at
true.
that point.
That's true. I don't know. Well, actually, it's good you bring that up because that was the next thing I was going to bring up. But because it also ties into like I don't know. So the whole latter half of that test does this thing, right, where Bam quite literally is forced to interact with all of his old teammates in some form of capacity, and for the sake of keeping up the identity here, has to like get rid of them or play up the whole Jewel Viola Grace thing. And it's like I don't know that power that he got, at the very beginning that Jin Sung either gave to him or he showed him how to get or whatever. We don't know what the fuck it is. It literally has not been alluded to once. The time that we saw it is the only time it's mentioned, other than actually when Teddy like sort of brings it up.
Sure.
But we don't know anything about. We don't know the stipulations. We don't know what triggers it, if anything triggers it. If Bam can do anything about triggering it. If it's like, you know what I mean. And so like,
well, Bam can't control it. That was already alluded to though with Teddy Bear.
Remember I know, but I'm saying like if he can do something like putting himself in a circumstance like to draw it out. We don't know we don't know enough about this thing to know if it solely acts on its own and like isn't doing anything associated with Bam, or if there are things even indirectly that Bam can do to like, you know what I mean, like, excite it or like trigger or whatever. But my point is that like there's every time Bam is put in a scenario where it's like, all right, we got him, like let's get him. I'm like now like, oh shit, like is this where he like cut? Because I don't know also if he. We didn't get to see a lot of it when it first showed itself, but like in that initial moment, like I don't know if like Bam was in control enough to where he wouldn't have just killed everybody on that floor. You know what I mean? So it's like, is it a thing where Bam loses himself once that thing like takes form or whatever? It's like, I don't know. That's and that's initially what I thought that thing was, but then I had forgot that it was the thorn, which I'm guessing is like just another kind of weapon.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the piece that bridges the gap, because that form that Bam has inside of him, I'm pretty sure it became pretty apparent that he can't control it, and that's the thing where it's almost like a fear of his for it to come out, because he doesn't know what will happen, because that's how it came out the last time, was when he was literally down, and it was like a fucking like reviving, thing that just came from his body. So in a sense, if they're going to cuck him like they did in this episode, they needed something to bridge the gap of like an ability that's within his control, but is able to get him out of shitty situations without relying on whatever entity is in that body. And that is why this thorn is introduced, because it is well within his grounds to control this, whatever you want to call it, but he's able to manipulate it and be in control, whereas whatever's inside of him isn't able to, and that is what's going to play even more of a role later on to when he gets into a shitty fight to where he is down, and that is going to like overtake him and then, really just wreak havoc. And then, him coming out of that state and then being like, what do I do with myself? And maybe then leading on to the foundation of, can I control it? How do I control it? Who do I go to figure that out? That's how I think the direction that he's going and why the thorn was introduced, to kind of give him something like in the middle to where it's within his control to really just settle fights that he can otherwise.
I think it also works as like a practical element because he doesn't need Shinsu to use it. Which is a big deal for Bam because he's a wave controller. Exactly. His primary method of fighting is only using Shinsu. Sure. So that's why they're like, oh, dude, we capped this guy, bro. He can't use Shinsu. So it's like it kind of gives him a literal get out of jail for free card in the sense that he can fight without worrying about whether his Shinsu gets capped off or not.
Yeah, exactly. And his abilities put on display were just insane. Where he was able to catch the bee dude's stinger and like do all this kind of crazy shit.
Yeah, I wonder though if this thorn, I mean, because again, it's not very specifically alluded to in these chapters, if it's a thing that merely enhances Bam's abilities at base value, or if it's almost something that like acts on its own and uses Bam's body as like guides Bam's body.
That's
to do
an interesting
things.
thought. I was thinking something.
I was thinking of that moment when he catches the bee thing, and I wonder if it's something where it sped up his reaction timing to be able to catch it, or if it literally acted on its own and moved his hand to catch it because he wouldn't have been able to do it on its own.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, I've thought
and
about that.
I also kind of wonder if there's like more pieces to it. Because I don't know why. Because I don't know if it's Shibasu or somebody else alludes to the fact that when that red stick is sticking out of his back, that it looked like Teddy. Right? It looked like the wing from the devil's right arm. So I wonder if there's like multiple parts to it that Bam can end up either getting more of or growing this thing to increase, and like it ends up becoming like a fucking, I don't know, like
that would like be interesting. But they were awesome skills displayed there. And then the B guy makes the classic like, haha, I poisoned your teammate, but you do have 5 minutes if you catch me because I have honey. And Bam's like, all right, bet. So then it just does that, and it's like, you give me the honey. Give me the honey. But yeah, and also too, like we'll circle back to this in a second, but Bam finding Anderosi as well was interesting when they were, him and the Traveler were there, and he's like, and when he called her a tank, and then she's like, you call me a fucking tank.
Now this was interesting because actually going back a little bit further, there's a moment that Anderosi has with her team where she basically makes this like, little acting ploy that she's caught a bunch of paparazzi units and that they were just trying to take pictures of her and they want information on Jewel Viola Grace. But actually, she was using these paparazzi to get specific whereabouts as to where Jewel Viola Grace was, because she was trying to identify and look for this person by herself. And then there is something, again, alluded to, I don't remember specifically who says it, but the fact that since Bam's death, Anderosi's kind of been in like this, haywire
she
state.
Keeps going off on her own.
So it's definitely, like, there's definitely, amongst Shibasu and everybody that wants to get Jewel because they, allegedly think he killed Kuhn, she clearly has like some personal stakes in this. She's definitely taken some of this to heart and like wants, whether she thinks she can get answers from this guy about Bam or what have you, which is interesting because alluding back to that interview when Anderosi and her team are on the thing, they all allude to being like, yeah, Jewel Viola Grace, he's like cool. I don't really know anything or care about him. And it's like, and Kuhn is watching the TV and even says, he's like, wow, they're all terrible liars. Like they all want to kill that nigga so bad.
That was hilarious. Yeah. I wanted to get into Shibasu. We have to talk about this man.
Yeah.
Because, like, holy fuck, did he blow me away in these chapters. Like,
he was...
If you've seen our tier list that we made at the end of season 1 talking about our favorite characters, we put him in S tier, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we did.
And for good reason. And he kind of gave me the Wang Nan vibe, to be honest with you. He was like the original Wang Nan before we got Wang Nan, right?
Sure.
To me.
Definitely.
And now, though, like, dude... He's got his chest high. He's got this look of like, I will fuck you up. He's intelligent. He understands his team fully. It's like actually incredible, dude.
It's like crossed with Kuhn's attitude a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like a fusion of the two where it's like I still think, again, he's got that like core Shibasu season 1 personality in there.
Sure.
But it's been like encased almost, if you will, in what I believe to be just his experiences of going up the towers, right? He's fully fleshed out into his role of a scout now. He knows what he's got to do. He knows what he's about. He knows how to use his team. And first and foremost, he's willing to like do shit, whatever it takes to get to the top of the tower. I mean, we get to those paparazzi dudes and they're like, all right, we got the bullets. What do you do? He's like, shoot them all. Like, we got to, and it's like, Shibasu.
Yeah.
My nigga. Like, whoa.
Yeah, man.
Intense. Like, oh yeah. He's even that altercation he has with Bam. It's just, again, this idea that like he is not, none of these characters really, when you think about it, feel, exactly the same as before we lost Bam. It's
I
like
love that
whole
shot of when he has Amigo next to him.
Yeah.
And he just comes up and he just looks at him like, I will fuck you up. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, so you're just like, he doesn't even care. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like
we
we're
made
old him.
what is it? Our mob boss Shibasu.
Yeah.
He's literally like a gangster, bro.
Yeah. How about at the end of that fight too, where Bam basically is like, I have nothing to live for. At the end of that was sad.
Yeah, I threw it up in our Discord about like what were people's highlights of these couple chapters, and like one of the saddest moments was like literally the last like 5 minutes of the stream, of those last couple of pages of the last chapter, because it's like with Bam sort of admitting to himself that he's like, there's really no point in doing what I'm doing anymore, or like living my life anymore, and like Kuhn hearing that, Rack being adjacent and realizing now that Kuhn is alive, as meaning there's no reason for him to be going after this Jewel Viola Grace guy. And on top of all that, we have like the very, very end reveal where it's like just in that 5 minutes, we were hit with like so much just knowledge dump, like knowledge dump for us, but also for other characters, which is important because, again, like I've specified, like this show works off the premise that like all of these, and specifically I think this arc, the conflict is so great because it works off the premise that everybody has a piece of the same story, but nobody has the same pieces, or nobody has all the pieces, really. So it leads to this like natural conflict so well because everybody's trying to figure out what's going on, but like the way that they use knowledge to sort of corrupt and manipulate people, it's like, but slowly when people are starting to find out these truths, or you see these moments where like real characters like get to interact on like a cut the bullshit kind of level, like where Kuhn gets to hear Bam say that, and like Rack sees Kuhn, and like Anderosi finding out that this dude might be Bam. It's like,
and I think what makes it even more entertaining is that there's so many conflicts that are happening side by side. It's not being fixated on just one conflict that's occurring, which is really the downfall for most shows, where it's like, we got to do this one thing. All right, let's run it for 100 episodes of just you getting to the pinnacle of that one conflict, where in this one, literally in one chapter, there's 20 different conflicts going on at the same time, and one doesn't even necessarily need to be resolved in some light to where it's just put on the back burner and like taken back up in a couple more chapters. Like, it's all just so free-flowing and connects so well, and you're never sitting there reading at the point where you're just like, when are they going to get this over with? Or when is this going to get fleshed out? Or when is that, like, you're not annoyed that they're just repeating the same things, like going through the same conflicts. Like, you almost get used to when you watch anime that they're just running through the motions. When you're like, all right, I know they just got to get these chapters out. They got to get these shows out just to lead up to the next point, where this one, it's not the case at all. Everything is happening so scatterbrained, but it's also very organized to the fact that you're not bored and you're not left sitting there going, I just want you to get to this like resolution already. Like, you're just along for
it makes
the
the world feel really like lived in.
Yeah.
Like, the weird moment I had when we were reading is in the fight between Anak and Ran. There was a moment where Ran says, oh, fuck, well, she's got some of Jihad's blood after all, even if it's only half. That moment, after I read that, it made me in my head think, I'm like, I wonder what Rand's opinion is of the princesses of Jihad.
Yeah.
And like, that's when I knew, I'm like, yo, this show is like kind of fucking good, because it made me stop in the middle of the action to consider Rand's thoughts on another topic about the world that's like not like, and it's like, that's all these characters feel like they're real people that live and exist in this world and have their own shit doing and going on, and like all those, that's why all those conflicts work, because they all feel like they're coming from real people who it's like, well, wait a minute, what the fuck? I got this going on. And it's like, it just works.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. How about we talk about Hotz and his fight with Costano? Gavin, you seem like you have some thoughts.
He had us in the first half, I'm not gonna lie.
He's like a sports announcer. He's like, they came out strong in the first half, but he really just whittled down at the end.
And when we were doing the live reaction, like, don't get me wrong, it was hypey, but I even made a comment. I'm like, yo, whenever like someone's coming out swinging hard, like just in any fight, and like nothing's happening back on them, like it's either two things are gonna happen. One, they're gonna, he's obviously gonna take a couple hits back, and then they're gonna go into the real fighting, or you're just gonna get one shot iced. And it was the latter on that one, and like that was the thing where as they were fighting, you kind of expect it because I'm like, yo, they're letting my boy get some like slick hits on him. They're explaining it very well. Like they're pumping him up to his attacks and why he's able to like choreograph them properly and pull them off, especially coming off the back of their previous fight and him just getting obliterated, which was said by Shibasu. And, you know, it was nice because you're like, all right, he's got this. You know, he's good. He's been training for however many years. He's been putting his 9 to 5 in with an extra overtime hour or two, and he's just going ham. But my boy Costano just isn't really doing anything back. You know, he's more sitting there in shock like, oh, fuck, you can scratch my arm and, like, you can, like, inflict some damage on me. But at the same time, it's like, you're not punching. You're not doing anything. Like, what? Like, that's when you kind of knew that shit was going to go down.
I feel like it's
a
bar.
path.
Right, where it's here.
Yeah.
So if they were here and they fought and Costano beat Hotz, even if Hotz gets here, like Costano's still here, right? So it's like it's just going to be this like adjacent exponential growth pattern where it's like.
I think it was Costano was here the whole time and Hotz was here and now he's here.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Like
I think Costano because he fucking whooped his ass immediately. I think it's like. You could obviously get better with, you know, Costano's probably gotten stronger, obviously. Yeah. But, I mean, in general, like, I think it's there were so many lessons that were portrayed in this one fight, and some of them were hard truths, and some of them were very inspiring. And, unfortunately, the hard truths kind of flattened the inspiration at one point, because it was really awesome to see that Hotz was like, no, I didn't do anything different. I just trained twice as hard. And, like, that to me was fucking awesome to see because I'm like, Hotz to me has a special place in my heart because Hotz, out of so many of these people, is, like, relatively normal in terms of, like, he's not from a great family. He doesn't have, you know what I mean? But, like, he just trains his fucking ass off. And, like, that's so admirable to me. And it was awesome when Casanova was like, holy shit, like, did you get a different sword? And he's like, nope, same sword, just trained twice as hard. And he's like, this is the same fucking sword, like the one that couldn't, and like, that to me was just a testament of how much stronger Hotz has got.
Oh, sure.
And it was just like incredible and inspiring to be like, oh my gosh, man, like that is awesome to see how far you come. Then we realize if your opponent takes steroids or, you know,
is literal half of a devil.
Yeah, got experimented on by scientists, all that training kind of
I guess we forget that, like, because I get lost up in, like, the idea or the terminology of, like, he's the devil's right arm. They're living ignition weapons. Ignition weapons are the strongest weapons that, like, exist in the tower, above, like, what I'm assuming are the 13th month weapons.
And the most cherished.
So, like, if they were built because scientists were like, you know what, man, ignition weapons, just not cutting it. Yeah. It's like, dude, that cap, it's got to be basically out of the seal. You can't even see it. So it's like, Hotz could have been here and could have literally scraped his ass off to get here. But my God, you literally have to go into space before you can even see where your bar is at in terms of matching it to Costano's. It's like it was inspirational, but like also heart wrenching because it was like
he gave me like really Genos vibes from One Punch Man there, where it was like Genos will just get his fucking ass mollywopped by some ridiculously strong character, and then he trains so hard and gets all these new components and all that kind of shit. And then like he comes back and he still gets his ass whooped, but you actually see in his ass whooping how much stronger he's got. So then when he goes against people like on his level, like Garo, who probably would have beat the shit out of him the first season, he's actually able to effectively beat him or hold his own in that fight. You know, so it's like Hotz has made leaps and bounds, which is really awesome to see, and it's incredibly inspiring. And knowing Hotz, he'll just continue to do what he's got to do until he either catches him or whatever, which makes him that much more awesome. But yeah, it was like it just sucks because it's like at the end of the day, dude, you're going against a guy that's like,
it's like he even said the thing where he's like, I've sharpened the sword twice as sharp, I've trained twice as hard, and it's like he just broke the sword then. Do you know what I mean? Like this whole time he's like, that means the first fight, dog, he didn't even go as strong enough to like damage the. He was like, oh, the sword's sharper. All right, I'll just snap it. It's like, fuck.
It was a kick in the balls when he fucking. So here's my question though. How did Hotz get sent up, or did he get sent up? And this might have been something I just straight up missed, and I apologize if I did. But at the end, someone mentions that Costano found a way to get himself up the thing, and he's seen, you know, some dude has a red over his head. And I thought it was Hotz for a second. Somebody mentioned, they're like, no, that's not Hotz. that's, whatever.
Yeah, I think
so. I don't know if he just let him go, or I didn't know if like an explosion happened, then he escaped, or whatever.
I thought they said
was out of the
Costano
loop.
sent Hotz up.
Yes.
Yeah, I
missed
missed it.
So
I missed
what
it.
people said from the comments was there was an explosion that happened, and during that almost diversion, Costano used it to shoot Hotz to send him up.
Send him up. So that's that's what happened.
Yeah, which I'd actually want to relook at that
and then
panel
that
when they
other
finished
guy
the fight.
who had the red mark
He was
on
a
his.
rando.
I think he's the guy that Costano took his bullet to send himself up. That's why that panel,
probably.
Costano had the blue symbol and he had the red because Costano used his bullet to send Hotz up, and then he took the other guy's bullet to send himself up.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's like, why? You know what I mean? Like,
to be honest,
the why is literally at the end of the fight with Costano when he was like that whole realization to where he said, "I envy someone who," or it was like, "I envy the growth with the sword," or something about he was like,
he said somebody whose sword grows stronger with you. I envy
exactly.
That.
Yeah.
So because like it or not, the whole stipulation, I guess if you want to call it, with like Teddy Bear and Costano is their power is it's part of them, but it's this living thing that's like attached to them.
Yeah.
And there is no mutual like connection or growth between the two. So when he sees something like that in Hotz, who like you mentioned before, Hotz has this distinct advantage over people in that he's a very honorable fighter. He's not somebody that's willing to resort to like, let's say, the dirty tactics that like a Coon would or whatever. If he fights you and he loses, he's just going to train hard enough until he can fight you again. Like he has this very, pride-driven, mindset.
Yeah.
And I think Costano sees and admires that in him. And so that's why, even though he beat him, he was like, all right. It was very similar to like the Urek and Bam moment.
Yeah,
where he's like, you know what? I can respect game.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
Yep.
Did we have anything else on the
The last thing here was just, I guess, sort of like predictions on what we think Anderosi's going to do now that she has the knowledge that potentially Bam
I want to
is.
add another prediction onto that, and that what do we think Rack's going to do as well in relation to Kuhn? Do we have any thoughts, Anderosi or Rack?
Well, to start with Rack, I think Rack is probably going to find some way to either, meet with Kuhn or like, like get in a room with him, whatever, and sort of like get the laydown. Because no matter which way you look at it, Rack still doesn't. Rack probably has the least amount of info of everybody in this getup here, and he obviously has an attachment to his friends, Bam and Kuhn. But he doesn't know what's going on. Literally the only reason he's here is because he heard this guy, Jewel Viola Grace, killed Kuhn. Yeah, that's it, and he had to confirm it. Now he knows Kuhn's alive, so it's like, hey, bro, what's happening? It's been a while. You're not answering my text. Like, I heard some crazy shit went down with you. Like, you died. What the fuck is that? Where's Bam? Like, So I think he has to have, if he confronts Kuhn, he has to have this moment of like, give me the laydown, man. Like, what's going on or whatever. And then from there, I don't know if Kuhn is going to divulge to Rack that Bam is Jewel Viola Grace because Ryun's warning about like the fact that only a select few people know that, because we know that Rack is probably not the kind of guy that sits quietly on info and plans a strategic, formula of attack.
Not at all. He speaks his mind
exactly.
Immediately.
So like telling him that Bam is right there and that like, it probably would not end well. So he might actually, whether Kuhn admits obviously that he's alive, he might be this thing. He might keep the fact that Bam is alive from Rack, which like could create some more.
What do you think?
I'm gonna throw a twister. I actually am the other way, where I believe that Rack right off the bat knows that Jewel or Viola was Bam. Yeah, I think that on that side panel because the way they kind of captured his face, it was almost very serious in a sense where in a weird way, I give Rack a lot of credit because I feel like he actually understands things a lot more than people know, and he's portrayed as a character to just run his mouth because don't forget in the beginning when he first has that interaction with Bam when he saw the weapon in general, and he marked his whole fight about like, you're strong, you have this weapon, like you're my prey. He is very keen to know who his prey is at many moments and really judge people by strength. He has that like he's really good at it. We've seen it like throughout his progression of the whole show. So I feel like just by looking at Bam, he's the only character I feel like who would recognize him without a doubt in his mind. And he's like, oh yeah, that's the black turtle. Or, just like that's the little turtle. Like I just have this weird feeling that he knows that's Bam and that he sees Kuhn and in some way may or may not have to talk to him because obviously there's a stipulation that Kuhn isn't able to talk to him because he has to play dead. Otherwise shit will happen. So if they do meet, it has to be in some hidden spot. But I feel like he's really just going to shoulder it for a little bit and then eventually have an interaction with him. But I have a very strong feeling that Kuhn's going to maybe bring up Bam, and he's going to be like, yeah, I know from the start. Like, I saw him. Like, you guys were in that same room. I'm not stupid.
I just want to know the excuse they give us as to why he's Baby Rack
that
again.
Too. Yeah.
That, because we all know the real reason why he's Baby Rack is because they don't feel like drawing him, but I'm curious to see how they fucking they toss that one up for them to
There's no Han Song in the fucking
I'm like, wait
in the hallway this time.
Like, before you go, I'm going to give you the gift to do this on command.
Yeah,
like, you'll thank me later.
Yeah, and why would Rack of all people use an ability like that?
He hates being small,
exactly.
So I'm curious.
Maybe
Anyway.
he grows to love it.
Whatever. What was the question about Anderosi, the last one?
Ian's heart is hurt. What do we think she's going to do now that she knows that Bam... So I'm going to lead off with my prediction to sort of reframe the question here.
Sure.
At the end of the chapters, Anderosi learns that Bam could potentially be alive.
Correct.
And learns through this by the means of the Traveler saying that guy that you thought was Jewel Viol Grace is Bam. So what I think is going to happen is, unlike most of the people, I think she's still going to go after this man, but if for nothing else, to capture and confirm, like without a doubt, that this is Bam. Mm-hmm. Because I think that her connection with Bam is going to lead her, into a state of mind that's strong enough and focused enough to at least be like, all right, like even if he's I can't take the I've been in literal torment all these years. Like if there's a shot that's Bam, I got to know for sure.
Sure. What do you think?
I feel like she's gonna get more desperate, actually, and the fact of knowing that there might be salvation at the end of this in terms of Bam being alive, and especially on how much of a shoulder he was for her, and obviously it's alluded that when he died, she went off the rails, and now that there is some sort of like glimpse that, oh, is he back? She might just get all out desperate to the point where she doesn't start thinking things through necessarily. And it's really just, I'm dropping everything. I need to figure this out for myself.
Ship him. Ship him. Ship him.
No, Bam has to get with Yuri, obviously. He has to become the next king of the tower. And then Yuri's like, oh my God. And Bam's like, yeah.
Facts. Dude. I mean, come on. It's Yuri. Yuri and
Yuri needs a king. That's just what's happening.
I'm just gonna say it's Yuri.
Gavin, can you grab this monitor and smash it over his head real quick? For obviously being a non-believer.
You're telling me if a chick like Yuri came to meet you and the first interaction that you had was her drop kicking you in the face, that you wouldn't just have your pants down in a second?
And there's only one right answer to that, so no need to take your time.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, a bit more of an Anderosi stand than
all right, incorrect.
I'm a Ryun stand, actually, at the end of the day, but if I had to choose between those two, I would rather see Anderosi.
For anybody wondering why Ian isn't a part of the show anymore after this episode, no real reason. He was sick. I don't know. He had to climb a tower or something.
He was sick of the disease of the non-believers. So we cured him by icing him in the head.
Ultimate question, Anderosi or Yuri, let us know in your thoughts.
And there's only one right answer.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, folks, those are our thoughts. We had a lot of fun on this one. I actually do like this format, and we will try and improve this as we go along, maybe having like screenshots of the panels if we can. Whatever.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Any feedback is appreciated. But again, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, comment your thoughts down below. What did you think of this discussion? What did you think about the chapters read? But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching or listening, and we'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
Later.
Peace.